Well, welcome back. And now we've got, I think I've used the expression, a feast of ideas. Well, this is a flood of water, but a flood in a very constructive and positive way, as indeed one of the speakers we're going to have here explained yesterday in his keynote, Kong Yang Yu, that water needs to be seen as something that you can use and not something that you have to resist. So in that sense, we have a flood of water now as something that's really positive. Because the first part of this session will be the final WAFX winner, which is for the water category. We'll then move on to the Grower Water Prize, won by Kong Yang Yu, and we will then have a panel discussion between Kong Yang Yu, Sean Myers, and Mr. Adams from the winners of the WAFX Water Prize, Matthew Mackay from Aspect, and also two of our friends and colleagues from Grower, Patrick Speck and Anton Bessoir Desort, and we'll say a bit more about the relationship between WAF and Grower when I introduce them. But could Matthew and Scott please come up?
That's good to know. All right. Good afternoon. My name is Scott Adams. I'm a director of TCL Landscape Architects, and Matthew Mackay from Aspect Studios. We're going to present to you a project which we've been working on in Melbourne for the last few years called the Green Line. So it's a truly city-changing project. The project scale it's the 4.2 kilometres of the north bank of the Yarra River. Now the Yarra in Woiwurroi is Birrarung. The northern bank of the river runs through the heart of Melbourne, but unfortunately over the last couple of decades, we as a city have turned our back on the river. The river was an active waterfront, but over time that has ceased to have its function and we've sort of lost its purpose. The south bank has been highly developed, and this is one of the motivations for this project, is to reactivate the north bank of the Yarra. So the project ambition, to transform the north bank of the Birrarung into a bucket list destination for locals and visitors. The Green Line represents the largest single investment in public space in Melbourne's history, at around the circa of $300 million. Now that figure has come out of an economic study that was done for about a year as a business case. The economists came to the conclusion that for every dollar of that $300 million put in, there'd be a $3 return for the economic uplift of the region, that being the city of Melbourne. Now, if you look at the diagram next to that, there's the socio, there's the environmental, and there's the economic. But one of the most important things is the bottom right-hand corner of the social, which is the importance of Aboriginal stories and truth-telling as part of this economic equation. This is what the site looks like today. It's a narrow path on the north side of the river, overshaded by bridges, both historic, but fundamentally it's a hard edge. It lacks ecology. The only ecology it does have is some African grasses and London plane trees. On the left you can see the old architecture is overrun by cars and misused. The main entry on the right you see next to Flinders Street Station is poorly utilised as a pedestrian space. Undercrofts which are undesirable, and fundamentally we've treated the river as a drain for the last 100 years. It's a hard edge, it lacks ecology, both aquatic ecology and terrestrial. Now this slide's really important. This is the Wurundjeri, the elders, the aunties and the uncles in 2017 in Parliament to witness the act, the signing of the Act of the Birrarung. Now the signing of the Act acknowledges the river as a living entity. It also acknowledges the Wurundjeri as being the traditional owners, past and present, of this living entity, as well as the land either side of it. It gives the Wurundjeri a seat at the table in strategic planning decisions to do with the Yarra River. Now the important thing about the way the Wurundjeri see the river is not only is the river a living entity, so is country. Country is plants, is animals, country is you and me. We're all part of country. And if you look after country, country looks after you. This idea of reciprocity, it's a reciprocal relationship. But in order to understand what country was 500 years ago, our team mapped out what we think it looked like 500 years ago. A woody grassland to the north, a rich series of wetlands to the south, fresh water coming up to a series of falls, a a very abundant landscape. Move forward and we've developed a city. That city's turned its back on the river, and we've got a hard edge that runs from the tennis centre to the east all the way down to what the end of Collins Wharf with Balti Bridge is to the west. The aim of the project is to embrace this idea of a reciprocal relationship and re-establish an ecology that we've studied and we know used to be there. We have a broad team of engineers. We understand the bathymetry of the river. We understand the hydrology, the flood patterns. Our ecologists understand what's in the river, what's next to the river, and what's upstream from the river. We know what we can entice back, and we know how we can do it. And on that note, I'm going to hand over to Matt, who's going to explain.
Thank you very much, Scott. So I'll start by describing our project vision. So we conceived the idea of a woven line as a strategy that brings everything together for this project. It brought together the complexity, wove together the ambitions, the constraints, the communities and stories of the site. The vision begins with redefining the site as Wurundjeri country, focusing on repair of the river's ecological systems and creating rich experiences and economic opportunities alike. The Green Line as a lineal promenade ties together a number of existing and proposed open spaces along the river. The ambition, as Jan Gell describes it, is to create a journey akin to a string of pearls, a curated and engaging experience which is linked together by a coherent promenade. To do this, we had to overcome considerable challenges, including barriers, low bridges, land ownership restrictions, and a lack of or simply no space for the promenade to exist. So the master plan is conceived as an inspiring vision that cuts through these challenges and constraints and inspires the community and stakeholders to come together to realise the potential for our North Bank. So we'd like to take you on a journey through the Green Line master plan, beginning at the eastern end of the site, right down on the right of the screen there, towards Birrarung Ma and our key public square, Federation Square, and then to the west, finishing in the harbour, the emerging harbour. We'd like to, if the slides move. There we go. Beginning with Riverland Vaults. So Federation Square is just to the right of that image. It has no current connection with the river. Our main public square doesn't acknowledge the river. The promenade in its existing form is overcome by the need to service commuter boats, commercial operations, and commuter cycling and pedestrian activity. So here we see a vision to widen the promenade, create a new set of water stairs connecting down to the river, something that can host events and bring that activity of the public square to the river edge. Below Flinders Street Station, we see one of the most unsafe and uninviting spaces within our city. This is a primary location where people come to visit the river. Here we saw the opportunity to create a universal access moment from the station down to the river, a ramp structure which elevates itself, but importantly, it sits above a new riparian edge or a reconstructed riparian edge to the river, and this is something you'll see in a few of the images we're exploring. At Banana Alley Vaults, this is part of the historic fabric of Flinders Street Station. It's essentially an underutilised space, very dangerous, unsafe at night, and with limited access to the river. Here we saw the opportunity for one of those key nodes and destinations along the journey of Green Line, reactivating the Banana Alley Vaults with new uses, and establishing where we couldn't get the riparian edge, but using floating wetland systems, which are being trialled at the moment, as a way of bringing ecology back into this public landscape. Many of the spaces only acknowledge one layer of cultural history, and that is the contemporary Melbourne colonial history. We've been working closely with the Wurundjeri, as Scott described, to imagine how we might bring their cultural values back and their knowledge and history of the river back front and centre where it doesn't exist currently. Scott also talked about the channelization of the river. This is the turning basin. This is the moment where contemporary Melbourne was founded. The ships couldn't go any further up the river because the falls existed at this location. The falls were then blown up and the saltwater and the freshwater systems merged in our city. But this is a moment where settlement occurred. Thank you, Jeremy. We're looking at renaturalising this system, breaking down the barriers, giving the river back its lands and its space. Under viaducts, we look at creating active spaces for teen and youths to use. To the west, one of our main parks in the city really has no identity or reason for occupation. We're imagining a destination play space set within a natural landscape, an indigenous botanic garden here. And again, the renaturalisation of the river where we can. In the west, we see a lot of these post-industrial landscapes. With limited opportunity for intervention, we're focused on how we can acupuncture ecology back into the existing framework we have to work with. Finally, at the end of the Victoria Harbour Promenade, a landscape which is currently derelict. We saw a key opportunity to recreate or re-establish what this existing ecology of the river landscape might have been. So at Point Park, essentially a reconstruction of nature in this location as a destination point. So finally, the woven line as a strategy has been something we've used to bring together stakeholders, to unite everyone in a common vision, to bring designing with country to the front and centre of the project, to create a coherent design vision which has been very strongly embraced by the Melbourne community. Thank you.